Hey, my name is Jobby. What the fuck? Oh, it was just a spider. First of all, I gotta give a big thank you to Alex who sent this to my P.O. Box 329 California 90651. And straight away, this very popular Beast Wars character comes packaged in her surprisingly great looking spider mode. And I don't know if you guys got the memo yet, but I kinda like Beast Wars. Blackarachnia was never my favorite Beast Wars character. That honor would go to description. But I always thought that it was cool to see a gross looking spider turn into a puberty-inducing woman. But this version of her spider mode is far from gross. And that's mainly because this figure is a Japanese exclusive repaint slash retool of the Transformers Animated Blackarachnia, which, let's be honest with ourselves, has the superior spider design. And between those figures, there are obvious coloring and sculpting differences, such as these clear plastic molded eyes, and this very impressive pair of ball-jointed mandibles, more like manda breasts. While the breastplate might be obvious, at least it's not the original toy. That poor fuck had a pair of E-cups on her head. Other bits of obvious kibble include these ball-jointed robot arms and these thick, ball-jointed back legs. But I could give these overly thick back legs a pass because this looks more like a mechanical spider. The figure's not trying to be an organic, spindly leg spider, and that pass is immediately revoked when you look underneath the figure and please sit on my face. And while we're at the underside, you'll notice this thingy, which was totally here the whole time. Please don't rewind. This claw weapon can extend and retract at the push of a button. These hinge joints here are actually pretty tight, and that gives the claw weapon a very nice grip. It's not a phase, Mom. All the cool kids are doing it. Coming back here, you'll also notice that the robot mode head is right in between her legs. Now, this situation wouldn't be that much of a problem if it snapped in somehow. The spider mode might look put together, but she's constantly falling apart. Women, am I right? Other than that, the figure feels fine. I mean, these ball joints might even feel a little too tight. And if you position those ball joints just right, of course taking into account the rotating front legs with its hinge joints and elbow, you could actually manage to stand the figure up. That's pretty impressive considering these front legs here are made out of a flexible rubbery material, presumably to prevent kids from violating their eye holes. With all these joints in mind, you could get the figure into a decent amount of spidery poses. And did you notice that I was naming all the joints throughout the review? Ball joint, ball joint, ball joint. Recently, I checked out my analytics and it told me that most of you check out during the posability segment, so I'm trying something new.
But Johnny, I don't like it.
Hey, at least the size comparisons are still doing well. At least for now. Here's Figma Modic Academy, SH Monster Edge Godzilla, Masterpiece Optimus Prime, Deluxe Class Rat Trap, Voyager Class Rhinox, and the Masterpiece Beast Wars figures so far. Now before we get into that good old royalty-free jazz, I'd like you to take a good look at these instruction sheets. You see this, my big boys? This is what you would call horny on main. I mean, look at this. She's wearing a cat girl outfit here, and at the bottom, you can see that it just pops out. You know that came out of her butthole. And after a simple transformation, Okay, I apologize for not being able to talk about a female figure without resorting to complete degeneracy, but them some tits, boy. Her oversized Zimbabwe's are even more noticeable due to the grossly thin waist. Talk about unrealistic body standards, Jesus. This defect is due to the major retooling of the Transformers Animated figure. You see, that version had mandibles that actually filled in these gaps. But if you fold the butt flap up, it kinda makes up for the lack of meat. But that kinda limits that waist swivel. Get that out of the way? Oh yes? And you even get a bit of an ab crunch and an arcing back, and now I see what they were going for. Takara, I'm begging you, please give us the properly proportioned Masterpiece Blackarachnia that we deserve, because until then, this is the most show-accurate Blackarachnia figure that we have. And that's not to say the robot mode is completely awful. I mean, the colors are perfect and that head sculpt is dead on. You even get some slight light piping here, that's always nice. But this 90s style head doesn't quite fit with the animated style body, and that just makes her look like a rush job in Photoshop. Not to mention this gaping hole in her chest due to the retooling. Was the titty worth it? But there is a way to fill that gap in using the ball joint at the head, hinge joint at the base of the... Other than the head, the tits, and the gap, the rest of the figure remains as the exact same sculpt as the animated figure, including these long, spindly legs that shouldn't be able to hold up the figure, but it does. I mean, until you try to pose her in any way. Now, there is kind of a fix for the stability issue. Simply split these feet, and that might look weird, but it does add for some added stability. And it opens up the possibility of a decent amount of poses. Something that also remains unchanged are these proper robot hands instead of the creepy crab claws that the original design had. But if you keep these spider legs unswiveled, it kind of gives off the impression of those disgusting pincers. Very smart. And at the arm, you have this hole, which the previously mentioned grapple weapon can plug right into, and that allows her to thwip around like a certain friendly neighborhood.
Swivel man, does whatever a
bitch.
Mr. Jobby, I don't feel so good.
Swivel Man is fucking dead. And the weapon can plug into her back. And if you manage to stand her straight up, you can see that she's a standard deluxe class size. Here's Monica Godzilla Prime, Rat Trap, Rhinox, and the Masterpiece Beast Wars figures. Overall, this figure's good. For what it is, it's a decent appetizer for the inevitable main course. Takara, please. And if you wanted one for yourself, tough shit. Big thanks for everyone who voted for this figure on my Patreon. If you pledge $1 a month, you'll be able to participate in weekly polls deciding on what I'll review next. And that's definitely gonna help me get through all the P.O. Box stuff. Now, for the last poll I did, a certain subset of my subscribers really pulled through.
Review more Gundam! Review more Gundam! Review more Gundam! Yes! More Gundam reviews! But it's not a model kit!